Welcome to This Wasn't the Plan podcast. I'm Callie.
And I'm Brittany.
And we're two best friends who met during breast cancer treatment in our 30s. This rocked our world, but we managed to get through it together. We've laughed, cried, and learned a lot along the way.
This is our real, raw, and honest journey, and we're here to help you feel less alone in yours. Thanks for listening. Now let's get on with the show.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's Saturday, just loving weekend life, except not loving college football losses, but that's okay.
I cannot relate. I'm sorry. I am behind on my Housewives, so I guess that's kind of like if your team lost. I don't know.
Who's the quarterback of Housewives? I don't know.
I could get it. That's a whole other episode.
I think, was it episode 1 where we tried to do sports references and it tanked pretty quickly? So maybe we don't do that.
Yeah, we won't do that. No, I just butcher them. How has launch been? We just recently launched our podcast, basically announcing it to the world. How has your social media posting been going?
It was honestly, I was just so excited. I feel like we've worked for a long time on getting this ready. You and I are both pretty meticulous. Like, let's think through all the things people. I've talked to some podcasters who are like, I still don't, blah, 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 like all these things. And that's just not like our personalities. So it's fun to finally get it out in the world. It's also really good practice to not polish every single thing. At some point it's like, it's ready. So how do you feel like it's been going?
Great. I mean, I haven't had to do anything. I just got to enjoy all the content you're putting out there. So it's great. You're doing
content
a great job.
that you edited. So,
well, I don't know. So today's episode, we are going to be, I'm going to be telling my cancer story, from diagnosis up until basically when I did the recording. My story is long and there are so many ups and downs and just a lot of different avenues. I couldn't possibly fit it all into an hour. It's a slightly longer. I'm sorry. You can just put me on 3.0 to listen to it, or 2.0. But I also want to say my story is not over. I'm still doing a lot of stuff to heal, and I'm still trying to achieve that no evidence of disease scan. And I'll probably in the future do another story update because there is a lot more going on. So I just wanted to make that note. My story is pretty emotional. I do cry quite a bit and I do have the sniffles, which since it was just our second recording, I kind of would have wish I would have had more, would have been thinking about not sucking up my snot the whole time, that the microphone is picking that up. So sorry about that, but that's just what happens when you cry.
What happens when you tell a story that's really difficult and you're still walking through. You're incredible. Yeah. I loved hearing it from start to finish.
Oh, thanks. Well, hopefully somebody can find hope or inspiration because I started from a very dark place, very, very dark place. And I'm doing so much better emotionally and just cancer-wise, health-wise. And it's pretty remarkable. So I hope you enjoy my story. Here it is. Thanks for listening.
Hello. Welcome back to This Wasn't the Plan podcast. I'm Brittany.
And I'm Callie.
And today we are going to be talking about Callie's story from early on to diagnosis, or what are we talking about?
We're going to start with my cancer diagnosis, and my story is kind of 2 parts because I've had 2 diagnoses. Lucky me. And we're just going to go through my story.
We hope that as a way of sharing our stories, it gives you context because we will keep coming back to our stories throughout all of the episodes we talk about. So this is a really good place to start. And we also hope that through this you can find hope yourself and maybe gain some insight or wisdom from things we've learned along the way. All right, so let's go.
Okay, well, so my cancer story starts in April of 2023. I was 7 months pregnant, and with my first child, I was 35. and I felt a lump kind of deep into my left breast. And I didn't really think anything of it, to be honest. I just noticed it, and I was like, you know, this is kind of weird. I had my husband feel it, and he's like, yeah. But, like, you know, when you're pregnant, your breasts get really swollen, and they say you can get a lot of lumps, and milk can come in. So I just kind of figured that's what it was. I casually mentioned it to my OB at my appointment. I said, you know, I have this lump. And he's like, immediately, he was like, we're going to get you in for an ultrasound immediately. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, like he said it could potentially be breast cancer, but it seemed impossible. So I was like, well, that's definitely not what it is. So I go in for the ultrasound pretty quickly, like probably, I don't know, a couple weeks later. And they say it looks suspicious.
Boy, is not a word you want to hear.
He's like, we need to get in for a biopsy. And I was like, okay. Like, what is that? You know, I've never had one before. And I was really scared for the biopsy. Like, all I could think was, like, needles going in my breast. Like, I don't know. Anyway, so going for the biopsy. And at this point, it's May. And my due date is May 28th. So it's, like, kind of in the beginning of May.
So you were a couple weeks from giving birth.
Like a month off, yeah.
Gosh.
And I go in for the biopsy, and I am, like, humongous. Like, I'm 5'1", to put it in context, and I was like 165. Like, I was really, really big. And they were, like, just trying to get me onto the table. Like, you have to be on your side when you're having a biopsy. They had to go bring in, like, all these wedges and whatever. Like, I just feel like a whale. They were trying to, like, maneuver through, you know. And I was like, and so I'm doing it, and I'm just kind of, like, crying a little. Like, it's almost like my body knew what was coming, but my mind wasn't quite there yet. And they do the biopsy, and they're really nice and really gentle, and it really wasn't that bad. I just want to say that. And then, you know, a couple days later, my OB calls me, and he says, it's breast cancer. And I was like, what? Like,
did you have any inclination at that point, like before you got the call, were you still kind of preparing yourself it was going to be nothing?
No. I was like, this isn't good. I kind of thought. I have a memory of myself. I had a lot of back pain, like really intense back pain throughout my pregnancy. I was in a lot of pain. I couldn't even walk. And I was taking a lot of baths, and I was really sad because I kept thinking, I didn't even know what breast cancer meant for me, but I just knew that it wasn't good. And I was sitting in the bath, and I grabbed a box of Oreos, not real Oreos, they're organic, but still grabbed them, sat in the bathtub, and I just was sobbing eating Oreos. And at the time, it was not funny. Now, looking back, it's kind of funny. Like, not funny, ha-ha, but, like, it was, like, what you would see, like, in a movie. I don't know. I was just like, what is going on? And, yeah, I was, like, I don't know. I just had a bad feeling. And then, yeah, it was, like, probably, like, May 17th is when I got the news it was breast cancer. And then he said, so my OB, his wife had breast cancer when she was pregnant with their first child. And so that's why his instinct immediately was to get me in for an ultrasound. So I felt so safe in his care. Like, he was an incredible doctor, just the best. And so he's like, we're going to get you in touch. I'm going to get you in touch with the surgeon, the UCSD, like, she's the best. And, you know, and I was just like, oh, I felt like he was, like, sending me off. So then I get a call from them, and I have to go in and meet with them, go over the pathology. And so I take my dad and my husband, and we go to UCSD. It's, like, probably, like, May 23rd, so I'm 5 days away from my due date. And I go in, and I'm, like, really devastated. I'm, like, in shock and devastated. I'm just, like, I just don't know what it means. Like, I don't know what breast cancer means to me. And I go in there, and I meet with the surgical oncologist nurse practitioner. It was a male. And I sit up on the table, and he just starts telling me what kind of breast cancer I had. I had stage 2, estrogen positive, progesterone positive, and at the time HER2 negative. And he said, and then he starts, it just felt like a spiel. Like it felt like something he had like recited over and over again. And he goes, okay, this is good news. It's only stage 2. He's like, and this is what we're going to do for you. He's like, we're going to get that baby out immediately. So, that. And then he said,
He's talking about your baby,
my
or
baby.
calling the tumor the baby?
No, my baby.
Okay.
Yeah, no, my little baby.
Your son.
My son. He's like, we're going to get you're going to have the baby, induce, have the baby. He said, when you get out, we're going to, I had like a couple options. I could start with chemotherapy to shrink the tumor, because my tumor was about like just under 5 centimeters, so it was pretty big. He's like, we could shrink it, do like 4 to 6 rounds of chemotherapy, shrink it, see if we can shrink it, then have surgery, follow it up with more chemotherapy depending on the pathology, results of that tumor. Then after that chemotherapy, then we do like 30 rounds of radiation, and then start hormone therapy for 5 to 10 years. Now, if I want to have any more children, I can get off the hormone therapy after a year and a half, do IVF, and then have a baby, and then get back on hormone therapy. I was like, is that all?
You're 5 days from having a child, and every mother's thoughts are all consumed with being a first-time mom. And now, how did you even process both of those things at once?
I didn't. I was like, when am I supposed to care for the child? Like,
right.
What? And then, that meeting was probably like 3 hours long, because they go over everything, then they do like a physical exam, and then they wanted to get more imaging and another biopsy.
Mm-hmm. So where they want the other biopsy?
They just wanted their own, because I did my biopsy through like a different a different office or something. It was really weird, and they wanted their own, and I was just like, oh, and I had no ability to like advocate for myself at that point. And I didn't really want to do a mammogram, but like,
because you only had an ultrasound done at that point?
Yeah, I'd only done an ultrasound, and it's radiation. I have a baby. They put like the shield over you, but I still think about that to this day, that I had a mammogram while I was pregnant, and that really upsets me.
Is there a reason that they say why they wouldn't just wait the 5 days to like you were almost due?
They just rushing me, and then it was really. I was just crying through the halls. Like, I just remember when they were like, I was waiting in the waiting room, and I was just like sobbing. Like, I was just crying, and they were like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, I'm not okay at all. Like, I am pregnant, and I have breast cancer. Like, this is terrible. This is the worst thing ever, Now it's 5 days for my due date, and I'm getting pressure to have that baby. And like up until the diagnosis, I was reading all about natural childbirth. I was like going to have a natural childbirth. I was like really dedicated to it. My biggest concern was, do I get a wax before my baby? Like, that was my biggest concern. Little did I know. And so I was like, no, I really want to still have this natural childbirth if I can. And the oncologists were like, really, like, no, you need to get the baby out immediately. It felt like it was like killing me, but I felt like if I could stay pregnant for longer, I could like protect the baby, and I could protect myself. And I did not want to have the baby. I didn't want to have the baby until the baby was ready to come out, So we're trying to just like naturally induce it. And my OB said that the oncologist's office was calling him to pressure me to have the baby. And I was so mad at that. And he's like, we'll do whatever you want. He's like, I don't care what they say. And he was amazing like that. But I ended up having to go in to induce because my OB was going out of town, and I was so scared that the baby would come when he was gone. So cut to me, I go to the hospital, and I have my baby. I have him via C-section, which was not my choice, but, that was just the way it was. And it was not what I expected. Like, the joy that you get when you're pregnant, or most people get, and then they have the baby. It's like, I didn't really get that. Sorry. This always makes me really emotional. I didn't have that because, like, with the birth of, like, my son was, like, the birth of the beginning of this, like, cancer diagnosis. Like, I just didn't know if I was going to, like, live. No one at that point was, like, saying you're going to live.
Yeah.
Like, why did anybody say that, Like, you're going to be okay. No doctor said that. They just said, like, you get to do all this stuff. So I'm thinking, oh, great. Like, yeah, all this standard of care treatments that didn't sound great with a newborn. Anyways, so I had my baby, and then in the hospital, every 12 hours there's like a new nurse, and every time the nurse came in, they'd read my chart. They'd say I had breast cancer, and they'd be like I wasn't met with, oh, new mama, like, new baby. There was one nurse who was so nice, and she was like, she kept calling me mama, and she was just like really sweet, and I was like, don't leave me. She left,
Right.
and I was like, no, I need you.
Now I'm back to being the cancer patient, not the new mom.
And then I finally, like, I was holding him, and I, like, was so in love with him. And then I remember, like, on my last day, this, like, the doctor on the floor, there's always, like, an attending doctor of the floor. He's not my doctor, but a doctor. He came in.
This is an OB.
I don't know what. Yeah,
Whatever.
I guess so. Whatever. He sat on my bed, and he goes, so what's going on with the breast cancer? And he was like sitting on my bed, and he's like, what are their doctors telling you?
I'm like crying laughing out of anger, not.
Yeah.
It's funny. That's awful.
I know. And so I tell him, like, they want me to do, like, I need to go in and do, chemotherapy and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, but, I really want to have more children. And, like, I was already thinking about wanting more kids at that point, like, I always wanted a lot of children. And he's like, and he looked at me and he said, you have a very aggressive breast cancer. You need to not worry about wanting other children. You have a son right there that you need to take care of and live for. And he said, you need to do exactly what your oncologist tell you to do. And I was like, up until then, no one said I had an aggressive cancer. Those words were never said to me. Like, I just thought I had breast cancer, Yeah. And he scared the crap out of me. So the joy that I was finally able to, like, muster up, he just, like, took away from me. And I was so upset. I just cried, and I was like, I'm sorry, don't sit on my bed. We aren't friends. No. That felt so invasive. I hated that. And so then he left, and I was just sitting there, like, holding my baby, like, trying to recover from the C-section and just being overwhelmed by it all. I was, like, already overwhelmed. And then we take the baby home, and I had him on June 1st, and I had an MRI scheduled for June 4th. And I was really stressed out about that because I just had a C-section. I was like, how am I supposed to get up and have an MRI? Like, you have to be on your stomach. Mm-hmm. And I was like, and I didn't really know much about C-sections because I hadn't read anything about them because I was determined to have my, natural childbirth. And so I was so stupid. I thought if I moved, my body would fall in half. Like, I had, like, a child's view of, like, what a C-section is. So I was like, I don't feel like I can do this MRI. Like, it's only 4 days. So I pushed it out to, like, June 8th or, like, June 6th. So I had, like, 5 days at home with the baby. And then I had to have my first MRI. And at that point, I went into isolation mode. I couldn't.
Who knew at that point?
My mom and dad, they were staying with me. Obviously, my husband. And then those are the only people, like, I talked to. Like, I couldn't even tell my sister. I couldn't tell anybody. Like, I didn't even know how to say it to myself. Like, I was so, like, devastated that, like, those words couldn't come out of my mouth. I couldn't share that news with anyone. And so I was very isolated, and, I was trying to take care of my, like, newborn. And I just remember thinking, like, should I bond with this baby? Like, I'm probably gonna die. Like, I don't want this baby to, like, be attached to me, and then and then I leave. Like, it's better if it's like he gets attached to my husband. And I didn't say those words to anybody because it's pretty dark, but that's just how I felt. Like, I had no hope, and I was just stage 2 at the time. And then Sorry. I still have trauma about this.
Yeah, I am sitting here crying. Number one, like I'm sad that we weren't friends and we didn't know each other at that point, because I'm like, my heart shatters for that version of you.
Yeah, that was like really hard. I was such a shell. Like, you know, I wanted to tell everybody about this baby that I just had, but I just like couldn't talk to anybody. I couldn't talk to my friends. Like, I just like couldn't talk to anybody. I was so stressed out. Like, I couldn't even look at my phone. I've never felt anxiety like I felt at that moment. Like, I was actually like paralyzed with anxiety. I was getting a ton of calls from the hospital, like the genetic testing, like CT scan. You know, they wanted to know if I wanted to freeze my eggs, like the oncologist. I mean, the list goes on. You know, you're just getting so many calls, and I like couldn't use my phone. I couldn't text. Like, my husband was like telling my friends, like, he was communicating. Everyone would communicate via my husband, because I couldn't even respond to like a text message. That seemed like too much for me to handle. And and so when I would meet with my oncologist, she was really awful. Like, she could not tell that she had just had a baby 8 months prior to me meeting with her, and I thought she would like see where I was coming from, you know. And so as I'm meeting with her and I'm just trying to gather information and figure out what I want to do, I'm asking her questions, and she just keeps like being like, I don't have time for these questions. Like, you know, stop asking questions. Like, these aren't, you know, I would just ask about studies I'd read, and should I, you know, whatever it was. And she just didn't have time for it. And she said, if you don't do what I tell you to do, you're going to get stage 4 cancer, and you will die of stage 4 cancer. And she said those exact words. And I just like, I think I might have hung up on her. And I think that might have been the last time I ever talked to her. I don't remember, but she was awful. She just was so mean.
Do you, at that point, okay, so you're a week postpartum or whatever.
Yeah.
Did you, like, I didn't know a lot about healing cancer naturally, but I know your family, like, you might have had a head start on that. Did you already, going into the meeting with her, have any thoughts of doing anything besides standard of care?
I didn't know about cancer, but I just kept thinking, like, this is a lot for stage 2. Like, I felt like we were throwing a jackhammer at a fly, or whatever the saying is. I don't know. I just felt like too much. I was like, it seems like overkill. Like, are you sure? Like, I don't know if I can do chemotherapy. Like, I think it might kill me. Like, I'm very sensitive. I don't take Tylenol. Like, I have like fainted from taking too much Tylenol.
Oh my
like,
gosh.
I just don't know if that's right for me. But that was all she offered. And, you know, I mean, that's all she knew. So that was all she could offer.
But she certainly knew better than to say something like
Yeah.
that to anyone, let alone
Yeah.
a brand new mom.
So to me, I felt like the easiest option was a lumpectomy. Like, I hadn't known a lot about cancer. Like, I really didn't know anything. My mom had breast cancer like 20 years prior, and she had surgery, and like it felt very like, cancer's never easy, but it just felt like more simpler, and she has been fine ever since. And so I was like, maybe I'll just do that. Like, lumpectomy seems like the easiest thing to do. So that's what I decided to do. And so I met with the surgeon like a month later, and this is like the beginning of July, and I had declined the CT scan and the bone scan, mostly because I was really scared, because I was breastfeeding, and I had read somewhere that like you're not supposed to hold a baby with the radiation, and nobody could like confirm that. And I don't know, I just felt like I wasn't being a good mom. Like, I had already done a mammogram, and then I did the MRI with the dye, and they said the dye would leave my body after 24 hours. Cut to months later doing, you know, some blood testing, and it was off, the gadolinium was off the chart, so it was still in my system. So I just felt like I was like failing already as a mom. And so I meet with the surgeon, and she says, this is what we're going to do. Your surgery will be August 15th, so like a month and a half away. You need to stop breastfeeding. If there's milk in your ducts, it can really complicate the surgery, and it can take a while for your milk ducts to dry up. You need to stop. And I was so devastated. Like, I was like, okay, so now I can't breastfeed my child. Like, it just felt like everything I had planned literally did not go according to plan. Mm-hmm. I felt like it was like a lot of letdown after letdown after letdown. And I just had no time to like even recover from all these like disappointments, And so I am sitting there in the medical office after she meets with us, and I'm really crying. Like, I'm like really devastated. I'm sitting with my husband, and she says to me, I know how you, she's like, I know how you feel. I breastfed both my kids for 2 years. And I was like, what? You don't know how I feel. You got to breastfeed your kids.
What does any of that have to do with
I don't know. But that's what she said to me. And that was supposed to be like my, that was supposed to be like, it was supposed to make me feel better. And so I went home that night and I like breastfed him all night long just because I was like so devastated. And then like, the next day I wasn't breastfeeding, and like I didn't know anything. It was like my first time. It had only been a month, and you're not supposed to just stop breastfeeding cold turkey. You're supposed to wean, because otherwise you can get like mastitis. It was extremely painful. Like my breasts were super hard, and also there's a hormonal drop. Like it's a hormonal thing when you're breastfeeding. And so I was depressed and like really bad, like
postpartum depression plus cancer depression.
Yeah, like I couldn't get out of bed. I was just like, and I didn't understand what was going on. And I was like, why did the surgeon, if she breastfed for 2 years, both her kids, you'd think she would have casually mentioned like you should wean yourself, but she didn't. She told me cold turkey. So that's what I did. And I remember being in so much pain, and I like.
Did any part of you think like, is this cancer pain or breastfeeding, like weaning pain?
No, I knew it was the weaning, or not weaning, the cold turkey. I knew it was that. My lump had no pain. Like I didn't feel anything with this lump. I was just really, really emotional, and it was like, that was to this day one of the hardest things I've like actually gone through with all of the cancer, like having to stop breastfeeding, because it was just felt like I was failing already as a mom, and it was just really hard. And then so I remember I was like in so much pain. I had a faith, but my faith was extremely shaken at this point. But I was like praying to God. I was like, can you please take away this pain? Like this is terrible. Like in my breast, like I had never felt that before. It was like horrible. And I swear the next day I was actually fine, which is kind of rare and weird. I really think he took away that pain. He's like, well,
a little miracle along the way.
Cancer, so I'm gonna give you this solid, take away this pain. So, anyways, I have my surgery August 15th. I have a lumpectomy, and throughout this time, I'm having these appointments, and I'm having to leave my son. I also was like hoping that the first 40 days, like, we're Greek, it's like kind of in our culture to like stay home for 40 days, not take the baby out. Like you're at home, it's supposed to be like peaceful bonding time. And mine was just like not that, and that was another just real strong, major disappointment. I would have to leave them a lot to go to these appointments. And I was just like, it was just like so much, it was just a lot of devastation. I know there's like worse things than I know moms have to leave their babies, but I don't know. This was just a lot for me.
It's a lot.
Yeah, I wanted to hold him and be there for him. So had my surgery, and margins are clean. Meaning that they cut out the tumor, and then like they check like the margins around the tumor to make sure there's no more cancer cells. So, and there was no lymph node involvement. So all in all, it was like, seemed like
Did they
very
take the
successful.
lymph nodes?
They did. They
Okay.
took my 2 sentinel lymph nodes, which are the ones that are like the closest, like when your lymph drains, like those are the 2 that the cancer, or
Most likely.
how do you, yeah, it's the one that it would spread to those lymph nodes. They took those out, which, in like hindsight, I really wish they wouldn't have. There was never actually any indication that there was lymph involvement. On all my biopsies,
Did they biopsy your lymph nodes?
Yeah,
Okay, so they biopsied them, came back clean.
came back clean,
But it's just standard to
yeah.
take a
But
couple.
I had heard that actually they can check while you're under surgery, if you have, if they are cancerous.
I have heard such mixed things about this, and I don't know if it's surgeon to surgeon, because I would love to know more about that.
Yeah,
But
so, whatever.
that's not what happened.
Yeah, so they took them. So during this time, they said after the surgery, you can't hold anything that's over, you can't carry anything over 10 pounds. Well, my baby was a little chunker. So he was like already 15, 8, I don't even know, he might have been 18 pounds. He was heavy. So meant I couldn't carry him. So at 2 months, I'm told that I can't carry my baby. And I was like, okay, that's, what else are you going to throw at me?
Yeah.
Thankfully, I have like an amazing support system, and I had family come in and stay with me. So like they would, pick him up and they'd place him in my arms. And I had a friend come stay with me, so I was really lucky to like have the help. But that was pretty devastating. And then just something to note, and it seems obvious, when I had my lumpectomy, my tumor was large, but I never really thought about how it would like change the shape of my boob like after surgery. This is just like cosmetic stuff, but I don't know, it's kind of alarming. So you're all bandaged up for the first week and 2 weeks, and when I finally got like the courage to take off the bandage and like look at it, it actually is really shocking and kind of a little traumatic. I wasn't really prepared for that.
So that was
August.
that was 2 months after a C-section. So you're
Yeah.
recovering from C-section,
Yeah.
lumpectomy, which was more, a 5-centimeter tumor lumpectomy. From
It's
what I
large.
hear is that would change.
Yeah,
the way
it would
things
change.
more, and someone should have probably sat down and told you about that.
I guess it's like obvious, but I don't know. It just wasn't.
No.
I wasn't even thinking about
Why
that. I
would-
didn't even care about that. I just was like, get this tumor out of me.
Yeah.
So I had the lumpectomy and then went in for the checkup afterwards. And that's when they actually tell you that like, hey, we tested your lymph nodes. There was no cancer in it. And I was like really worried about that because if there was lymph involvement, it was going to be like stage 3. And when the nurse told us, the nurse practitioner, this is the same guy who, this is the first person I ever met with, he said to me, no lymph involvement, and me and my husband were like extremely relieved, and I was kind of crying, and he looked at us and he said, oh, is that something you were hoping for? Like, yeah, dummy.
Well, no, duh.
No, I wanted it to be in my lymph nodes. It was just
Yeah.
the dumbest comment and so insensitive. And I remember him making like a sports joke because my husband was wearing like Dodgers gear and he was in Padres gear and they're rivals. And I was like, where do you think we are? Like, we're not a baseball game. Like, we're at a post-surgical meeting. My wife has cancer. Like, my husband didn't even like comment on it. It was just really insensitive. But whatever. So then he is adamant that I need to do radiation. And I wasn't sure yet about radiation. I didn't know anything about it. I hadn't done any research, but I knew that they wouldn't let it go. So I said, okay, yeah, well, I'm going to have to go up north to stay with my parents because radiation is every single day. And you have to, it was far away. It was going to, it takes longer to get there than the actual radiation. And I was like, I'm going to need a lot of help. So I'm going to have to go stay with my parents. This is all a lie. And he's like, okay.
This is all what?
A lie. Like I was lying to him.
Okay.
Yeah, because I knew I wasn't sure if I was going to do radiation, and I didn't want them to they will keep calling you if you don't tell them. And so I said, I'm going to do it with a different hospital though. So, and he was like, okay, you need to do it though. And so after that, I just think I'm cancer free. Like, or everyone's talking to me as if I'm cancer free, And
Meaning like your family. And
Yeah,
friends.
like everyone's like, well, we got the lump out. You don't have cancer anymore.
Right.
I really didn't know much, so I was like,
your mom's experience was.
Yeah, so I just expected to be like, yeah, I'm cancer free. Well, at that time I was like, I just want to enjoy this time with my son. Like, I was starting to like kind of walk and exercise and spending the day with the baby, and I didn't have an oncologist because I couldn't stand that one lady, and I just was like, I don't know. I started to see at that point I was like, okay, I need to understand why I got cancer. Like, something in me was like, this just didn't happen. I need to understand. And I knew about functional medicine, which is doctors who study like your root cause of whatever your problem is. So I looked for a functional medicine doctor near me. I found one, and he specialized in cancer. And I was like, I'm going to meet this guy. So I go see him, and we start doing a lot of root cause testing. And I'm meeting with him a lot, but I'm not really doing anything. Like, I didn't fully change my diet. I didn't I haven't done any support IVs. Like, I really didn't do anything. I was just because I was truly kind of shocked at how much money it was out of pocket, which was like a drop in the bucket.
Funny looking back now?
Yeah, kind of. And, there was a lot of, I wasn't sure of anything. Like, I was really scared that I wasn't doing what they said, but I just didn't feel like what the oncologist said was right, but I didn't know what was right. So I was really just trying to figure it out at the time. And I was so naive at that time. I thought, and I asked my functional medicine doctor, I said, am I going to be able to have kids next? Well, I feel like get pregnant next year. Like, I was just like, I got the cancer out. I'll do whatever I need to do. And then I want to be able to have a baby next year because I got to stay on my plan. I want 3 kids, and I'm 35. Actually, no, I just turned 36. And I was like, I gotta get going at this. And he was like, yeah. Like, he didn't say anything, but I think he was like, oh, this girl, she don't know. But, he's being sensitive. And then, like, it's October-ish, maybe end of October, I kind of feel something at the surgical site. And I hadn't really touched that area because I was so, I don't know, I had a lot of emotional wounds connected to it, and I didn't want to touch it. But once I did, like, there was scar tissue, of course. But then I kind of started to feel something, and I told the functional medicine doctor, I was like, I feel something here, but it hurts. Like, it really hurts. It doesn't feel like the last one. It's like kind of painful. So I thought maybe it was a hematoma or something, because they said, my surgeon said, like, make sure your baby doesn't like kick you or whatever. Kick you. It could cause like a hematoma, like a blood sac. So I was, he was kind of ultrasounding it at his office, and he said, I think you need to get an ultrasound. And I just this is like November. Things were slower at this point. And I was like, this can't be another lump. Like, that's
not how it's going to go.
No, that's not the plan. And
I wonder why we chose the name we chose.
Yeah, exactly. And I just sat there in his office crying. And then I finally get an ultrasound appointment. It's not till like December 29th. And so that Christmas was like, it was supposed to be my son's first Christmas. It was supposed to be joyful, but I just had that hanging over my head, and I knew it was coming. And I go to the ultrasound. It comes back malignant, meaning it's cancer again. I'm just like, what in the actual F? This is like 3 months post-surgery, and I already have another tumor. Like, I don't think that's good. So at that point, I'm like, well, I need to get another I got to get another oncologist. So I find one. She's a woman, a different hospital. She has a much better bedside manner. Like, she had more sympathy, but she was really insistent on me doing chemotherapy. And I was like, I was kind of close to doing it, but I was just like, I just like feel like it'll kill me. Like, I just don't know if I can like really withstand it. And then I was like, somehow I was watching some like breast cancer summit thing online with my dad, and we came across this doctor at this cancer center, and I was like, I wish I could go to a place like that. Like, that's what I need. I want like whole body healing. I feel like I got this cancer because I had an incredibly toxic terrain and, emotional like stuff, chronic anxiety, all the root cause things that we finally uncovered. And nobody's like looking at that. They're just treating me like every other cancer patient, and I'm an individual. Like, I'm different. Like, I need individualistic care. And so I looked her up online, and I found out she was only 40 minutes away from me. And I was like, I have to meet with this doctor. So we go there, and me and my husband go and meet with her. She sits down with me, and I finally feel like I'm seen. Like, every doctor before me just didn't see me as like the struggling person that I was. Like, I was really struggling with every doctor. Like, even my integrative doctor, the man, he was really nice, but he kept being like, your body's really stressed. Like, where's the stress coming from? And I'm like, I just like looked at him, and I'm like, how do I answer that? I have cancer and a baby. Like, where's my stress coming from? Like, and I don't think a man can fully grasp what a woman goes through after having a baby. Like,
I don't think even someone who had who hasn't been up close and personal to the process, whether that's walking deeply with someone else through it or going through it themselves, like, I can imagine. But like, even I sit and have to like listen to you talk about it, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. It felt like my whole world was like falling apart.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, ugh. Anyway, so I'm meeting with this doctor, and she looked at me and said, who's helping you? And I was like, I have family. She's like, no, you are going to need help. You need to, and women don't like to ask for help. Moms don't like to ask for help. I'm extremely guilty of that. And I was like, okay. And I listened to her, and we came up with a great plan. And I had started learning about like low dose chemo, vitamin C. I learned about radiation, and I didn't feel like it was right for me. I have a genetic mutation called CHEK2, and people with CHEK2 have a higher chance of developing secondary cancers when they do radiation. And,
What, detox?
No, it's like just genetic testing that I did with like the hospital. And I just didn't feel like that was right for me. It was like under my left breast where my heart is. And I don't know, I just felt like the risks outweighed the benefits for me. And that was my personal decision, and I don't regret that. And so I talked with the doctor, and I decided I was going to do low dose chemo. She said I also really need to have an oncologist that I trust and like. And so I was like, okay, I had a name in my back pocket that someone had recommended, and they said that he was like open to integrative stuff. And at that point, I just like didn't want an oncologist, but I was like, okay, I need one. So I met with him.
Can I, at that time, did you know why you would need an oncologist if you were going to a place like this?
Because usually integrative doctors, they like to have you consult with an oncologist as well. I didn't fully understand it, but I knew I needed like scans, and I needed something to be covered by insurance. So,
right.
I mean, honestly.
And that, I think, is a big thing for me.
Yeah.
Anything you can get through an oncologist who will work with you if you're not doing all of their plan. Insurance is more, is likely going to cover it.
Yeah, and she told me, she said, we need to see what's going on with the rest of your body.
Because had you had a full body scan?
No, I had not had any full scans. I had only had breast imaging done. So she said, we need to see what's going on in your body, and then we can. Sorry, I should back up. We had not decided we were doing chemo yet. I needed to have the full scan. Okay. But I started doing like some support stuff like vitamin C. And
had you had like cancer markers or circulating tumor cells checked at that point?
I had, and they weren't. I don't even remember the cancer markers, but I know my circulating tumor cells were like 4.6.
Okay.
So it wasn't really that high.
Sorry, this is technical for people who don't understand this, but was that RGCC or was that
Yes,
Signatera?
I did RGCC, which is the company out of Greece. They test your blood to see how many circulating tumor cells there are. So they used my tissue from my tumor.
That's right. They get it from wherever you got your biopsy done.
Yeah. I had surgery, so they had my actual tumor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And they see if any of that DNA is
original one.
Yeah, the original one. And so it wasn't high, so it wasn't really like alarming anybody or anything. But having a second tumor that quickly after surgery is like pretty fast growing. So anyways, she said we need to get you in for a PET scan. And so I met with a new oncologist. I actually really liked him. He got in the order. I had the PETs. The insurance denied the PET scan. So I had to have a CT scan and a bone scan.
They were
said
requiring you have those done first?
Yeah, there wasn't like enough evidence to indicate that I needed a PET scan, even though I had cancer. So, yeah, whatever. So I go in for the bone scan on a Friday. I go in for the CT scan on a Monday. And I took myself to the CT scan. I like went by myself. And I remember being like really proud of myself because up until then I really couldn't do anything by myself. I was really scared and I just didn't feel like I could. And for whatever reason, I had no one to take me that day because I needed someone to watch Oliver and blah, 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 blah. And so I go into the CT scan and I was like kind of nervous and I was done. I was like, I'm going to go treat myself to a coffee. And I go to like this place and I'm sitting there drinking my coffee and no sooner do I look at my email and I get the results for the CT scan. I mean, it was fast. It was within an hour. Now, anyone who's listening who has had a scan, there's usually a pretty extensive wait time. Anything past a minute is long for you waiting for those results, you know. But it came back within an hour. And I looked at it and I was like, my stomach dropped. Like, I had to leave. I was like, I need to go home. It said, like, extensive cancer in my back and my spine, my upper spine, my lower spine, my sacrum. It was in my ribs. I had a fractured rib at the time, which I didn't even, like, think it could be.
Did you feel
Oh, yeah, no, it was super painful. I just thought I don't know. I thought I sneezed wrong. I really don't know. I didn't think it was cancer, but the cancer had fractured my rib.
Did you have like a moment where you started noticing pain in your body, like in relation to the time you noticed the lump, or how did all of that?
Well, I had some aching in my liver, and I was like, oh, I don't know if it's cancer, and then I was like, okay, I can't live the rest of my life thinking that every ache and pain is cancer, and so I was like, no, and I had really bad back pain when I was pregnant. And then once I had the baby, the back pain kind of went away. Like I didn't really have it as bad, but then it started to come back. But, any mom will tell you that they have back pain from carrying their baby. So I didn't.
I mean, you're a small framed person.
Yeah, and I had a chunker of a little baby. And so I just figured that back pain was like from carrying this baby all the time. You like to be carried. And so I didn't think it was. You just never think it's going to be the worst thing. I don't know.
Or you make yourself not think it's going to be.
Yeah.
Because you're right. You don't want to, I mean, the day after, or a few days after my diagnosis, I was having some leg pain. And I was like, am I going to live the rest of my life thinking that any little ache or pain is cancer? And like to a degree, it always does cross your mind. And so you have to figure out how to like filter that voice.
Yeah. So.
Sorry, go on.
No. And so I call my husband. I tell him it's spread. Oh, I should say it was also in my liver.
So you said your back?
My back, like my spine, my like pelvis, sacrum, ribs, liver, and lungs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was like,
yeah, that's an
everywhere.
awful thing to get at a coffee shop.
Now I go to the car and then I call my mom. And I'm kind of like reading it to her. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? It's okay. This is bad, but I'm going to be okay. Like, I'm going to be okay. I was scared, but I knew it. I was like, I'm going to be okay. I took the news of this stage 4 diagnosis way better than my stage 2, which is insane. But I do think it's from the pregnancy hormones is why I just didn't handle it properly.
Well, and the initial shock.
And the shock. And,
like, you could have stage 0 cancer, and you hear you have cancer, and it's a semi-truck hitting you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I go home, and I don't know. I just, like, there are moments throughout this journey where I just feel like God was protecting me because I was shockingly calm, and I knew that, like, my family was waiting for the results, and I had to tell them. And I was like, if I tell them and I'm scared and I'm crying, they're going to be just as scared, and then I'm going to be more scared. It is going to be a cycle of fear and sadness, and that's just not going to help me. So I'm going to call them, I'm going to FaceTime them, and I'm going to tell them, and I'm going to say, but it's okay. I have a plan, and I'm going to be fine.
Do you feel like going to the clinic you went to prepared you to be able to handle, like, you knew you had tools in your tool belt?
Yeah. Because I finally felt like, okay, this kind of care, which was integrative cancer care, felt more aligned with me. I was targeting the tumor, but I was also targeting the terrain, or fixing the terrain, and that felt right to me. Felt manageable. Well, I'll get into, like, the treatment stuff, but it just felt like I just felt like I had more of a plan and I could tackle it better at that point. So I called my family, like different members of my family, and I told them, and I was like I was being my jokey self, like really lighthearted, because I just needed them to be the same. I needed them to mirror me so that I knew that I wouldn't, like, freak out. And then, so this is like part 2 of my cancer story, because my first part was stage 2, and then the second part, stage 4.
And when did you get that scan and find out that it was?
This was February of 2024. February. So me and you met, I think, January.
Yeah, because you started getting IVs and stuff.
Okay. I started getting, like, integrative, like, I started getting some support IVs. I was doing, like, a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. I was just, like, starting to, like, learn about all these, like, integrative stuff. I was reading a lot of books about it. I had learned about low-dose chemo, and I was, like, pretty sure I would probably do it. And then once we got it, the results, and I talked to the integrative doctor, and then I talked to my oncologist, we decided we were going to throw the kitchen sink at this cancer. So I did low-dose. I started with low-dose chemo. I started hormone therapy, like tamoxifen. I did a CDK4 inhibitor. I did, and then I eventually in May I started immunotherapy, called Herceptin, but I only did it at 50% with my oncologist.
That was at the oncologist's office?
Yeah.
Okay.
So then my cancer pathology came back, and it was HER2 positive.
So when it came back the second? Okay.
Yeah, the second tumor. I do feel like that second tumor came, like, I always feel like everything does happen for a reason, and that's, if I didn't feel that second tumor, I may never have found the cancer, because I was pretty much going to live my life like I never had cancer. Like, that's how I felt, like, after my surgery. I was like, this sucked. I don't want this. I want to live my life. I would like to deny this ever happened. And so I didn't want to spend my time in, like, oncologist offices and scans, and I didn't want that to be my life. So if I never had that tumor, I don't think I would have ever found that cancer. And so I do feel like it was placed there and grown at that rate to be able so that I would find it and, like, get to this point, right? So I go to the center, and still at this point I really, like, I had no, like, community in the, like, cancer world. Like, I didn't really, like, know anybody. I had nobody going through it with me. It was just, like, me. I felt like I was the only one to get cancer, even though cancer, millions and millions of people have had cancer. And when I met you, that was, like, the start of, like, you know, like, honestly, like, such great support, because I was really scared to talk to people. Like, anytime I go to that cancer center, I kind of sit in the back by myself. I'd bring, like,
my iPad and I would just want to like, watch Housewives and just like take my IVs and like whatever. Like I didn't know if people wanted to be talked to. And then I met you and you were like, you just seemed like very together and like this girl knows what, I felt like you had been going there for months. Like you were a regular and you got my number and then like, I remember like thinking about you and like you texted me or I texted you, I think, and asking how you were doing. And then I was like, oh, maybe people do want to talk to people at this place. And then once I started doing low dose chemo and you kind of do it with similar people every week, I was like more open to start talking with others. And then I was like, whoa, I needed this. Like sitting there talking to other patients, going through what you're going through. Like, and honestly, they were mostly young women. Like some of them were moms, some of them were hopeful moms. Like it was sad but inspiring, and like I finally felt like I can talk to people doing it how I was doing it. And
would you say, I'm looking back at my time because I think thinking about these kinds of cancer clinics, I imagined like elderly, frail, like people, like I had a certain view. I was like, I'm gonna walk in and be the youngest person at this place.
Yeah,
like in at least in low dose chemo.
Yeah.
Would you, like you say, like what percentage were like around our age?
I mean, like probably 50%, 60%.
50 to 60.
It was high. It was mostly young people in their 30s to 40s. Not a lot of older people. It was a lot of young people, and it's just, it's devastating. I always felt though when I was there, I was like, I never felt like sad for others because I felt like they were going to heal. I was very adamant, like these people are healing. Like they aren't surviving, they're healing. And it wasn't until I saw a mom one day, she came in and she had, this baby couldn't have been a month old. And I could see she was new and I could see she was overwhelmed, like fresh diagnosis. And she had to do all these appointments and she couldn't bring the baby in. And I remember thinking, oh my God, like that was really hard because I just knew what that was like. And I was like, do you want me to hold your baby? Like, I know I'm a stranger, but I have a newborn too, or I have a baby too. He was like 8 months old. And, happy to hold him for you. And she was just like, I can't give my baby to a stranger, but it was just really triggering. But anyways, just like creating that community started to make me feel like even more like secure and like the treatment and like my plan. And I had gotten about 12. I did 12 rounds of 12 rounds of low dose, and then I got my first PET scan, and it showed. I actually thought I'd be like cancer free. Like I was like, oh, I will not have cancer anymore. They said they suspected I would need 12 to 16 rounds of low dose chemo. I still had cancer at that PET scan. I was like, ugh.
Was
But
this the one in November?
A ton of improvement. No, this was in June.
Okay.
June of 2024, I had my first PET scan. The lungs, there was no more cancer left in my lungs. The ribs the cancer had cleared up in my ribs. I had improvement in my liver and that like the tumors were shrinking, or the SUV scores, which is the standard uptake value, which measures the metabolic activity of a tumor, was lowering or decreasing. My breast tumor shrunk a little, but like it was still there. So I had a significant improvement, but I wanted no cancer. Then my oncologist said to me, okay, we have one missing piece of the puzzle. We got to see what's going on in your brain. And that was kind of my scary place. Everyone has their scary place, and that was mine. So I had to get a brain MRI, and I was terrified. I was a wreck that morning. I was crying and I just was freaking out. And anyways, I got a brain MRI, and thankfully there was no cancer in my brain, and I was really happy about that. It felt like a win, and then I needed to continue on with the low dose. But at that point, I had not told anybody outside my immediate circle that I had breast cancer. Like, I'm sure in the family it was kind of, people probably talked about it, like my extended family, but I had not talked to anybody about it. definitely didn't put it on social media. Like, this is more than a year in. This is like, I had Oliver June 1st, 2023, and it was like July when I was like, I think I'm ready to tell people about this. I feel better. I was like very confident. I felt really like empowered, and I felt like I was healing. And
Do you feel like it was like you had signs of improvement and that your plan was like working, and so you could like confidently?
It was more that like I didn't cry every time I talked about cancer. Like the first year, I just couldn't even talk about it without crying. Like in the first few months, I didn't want anybody to say the word cancer. I couldn't say it, and it felt like if a friend came over to meet Oliver, I felt like it was the elephant in the room that I didn't want to discuss. But I feel like everybody was, it's like when you have a pimple on your face and you think everyone's looking at it, but in reality, you're the only one that knows about it. Well, this felt like that, but actually everyone did know about the pimple and was probably thinking about it, and maybe didn't know how to ask or how to talk about it.
Like a boil on your face.
Yeah, there's a goiter on your forehead, and are we not going to discuss this? That's how it felt, and so I just felt like I could talk about it. I had a lot of healing in the talking about it. Like every time I meet someone new at that cancer center and we talked about our stories, it was so healing for me. And I thought, if I share my story, like maybe I could help someone. And I had seen other accounts on Instagram that really helped me heal because they were sharing their story. And I just was like, maybe this is why I got cancer. Maybe I'm meant to share this story. Maybe I'm meant to help people. Like, I don't know. It was just kind of all that was starting to brew in my mind. So I did. I shared it in, I believe, July. And it felt like such a huge release. Like, I felt like I had been hiding this huge secret for so long. And I always, like, my social media thing is like being authentic. Like, I can't stand when people lie or like put up stuff that's not truthful. I love sincerity. And here I am being like the biggest liar. Like, I am like, oh, I have this great life, I have a baby, and but no, I was dealing with something huge and scary, and it felt so good to share it. And then the support that I got was like, I didn't even think about that. Like, I never even thought that all these people would come out of the woodworks and send me messages of like support, and it felt like it was like what I needed. I didn't know I needed it, but I guess I did, and it just felt amazing to have people I hadn't talked to since high school, like, say, like, hey, you're going to beat this, like, you're going to be okay. And I don't know, it's just like all the prayers, and then it was really great. So
I always tell myself, like, when there are like a handful of people who I really don't have much connection with, who really shocked me, and like, I'm like, wow, like that, whatever. And I'm like, they definitely are. Like, those are the people, kind of like we talked about earlier, just like they probably had someone in their life that has cancer.
Yeah.
And like, whereas, a lot of us who are lucky enough to not have been affected by that until now, it's like, I don't know, like now we just respond a little differently when you're like, ooh, I understand the pain you're going through.
Yeah. And then I'm just like continuing on my low dose chemo. It's like August, September, and I'm supposed to have another PET scan like September. And I'm like, I'm not ready yet. Like, I don't feel like I'm there yet. And my cancer markers are starting to kind of creep up a little. But I'm like, no, it's die off. It's die off. And, I just kind of ignored them. And they're like, I don't know. So I had my PET scan early November.
And you kept doing chemo until then, right?
I was still doing chemo. And my first 12 chemos, I was tolerating it pretty well. Just kind of sick that night, and then the next day I'd wake up really fine. Like, it really didn't affect my quality of life, which was incredible. It wasn't until like 18 that I was like really starting to kind of get sick afterwards. It'd be like a day, 2 days, and then like around 20 I would be sick for like 4 days, and it was just like worse than it was just starting to, I felt like my body was getting more toxic. So anyways, November, I get a PET scan, and it shows progression. And what that means is that, like, your cancer is not shrinking. It's getting either spread to another place or SUV scores are increasing. In my case, I had a new spot on my liver with a really high SUV score, like the highest I've ever had. I had a new spot on my thigh and a new spot on my pelvis. And I was devastated. I got on the ground. I was like crying and I was like yelling to God. I was like mad at him. I was like, I finally regained my faith and you're going to do this to me? Like, are you kidding me? I was so mad. And at that point, I was like, maybe I'm not meant to live. Like, maybe this is like why, like, I don't know. I just like was really in a dark place at that point. And I really didn't know what to do. I had to like really like take a step back and like think about what I wanted to do because, you know, I was still doing all of that treatments and like all of that wasn't working. Like that's like, you know, it's one thing when you have the options and then when those options don't work, that's when it gets really scary, you know? I started seeing a medical medium, which is like very outside my, what, I don't know, like what I believed in. Like I was, you know, I was raised Greek Orthodox. Like I don't think it's part of the religion. I thought I might go to hell because I started seeing her, but I met with her and she like pulled me out of the depression. I mean, it was like I physically felt her take the negativity out of my body and I finally started to see like hope. And I had been thinking that I was just becoming too toxic with all of the stuff I was putting in my body and I needed to heal more naturally. And I was like, you know, I feel like I got cancer because of the toxicity in my body. So if I'm going to heal cancer, it's not going to be from more toxicity. It's going to be from less. So I made the decision to stop low-dose chemo, stop my immunotherapy, stop the CDK4 inhibitor. I stayed on a hormone blocker, but I switched it to something called anastrozole. I started Zoladex, which shuts down your ovaries. And then I was like, I got something called a Rife machine, which is frequency healing. And I said to my oncologist, my nurse, I said, listen, I want to try something a little out of the box. This stuff wasn't working. I'm going to try this. We'll have another PET scan in 3 months. If it's working, great. If it's not, I'll do what you guys are suggesting.
Was there any, like, what was the switch in hormone therapy? Like, what was that conversation with your oncologist like?
Well, he just said the tamoxifan's not working. He's like, we gotta, but there's other ones. So they switched me to anastrozole. And then, so, you know, and then also another piece of the puzzle that is like brought up when you're doing, integrative healing is your emotional wellness and your emotional healing. And I started doing something called Cereset and like Evox, which is, Cereset's kind of hard for me to explain, but you kind of like sit there and they put these like things on your brain and you're creating new neural pathways and it helps you get out of fight or flight. So that helped with my like nervous system. And then through Evox, I discovered I was like holding on to like a lot of resentment and like guilt and these things. And I had like a huge emotional breakthrough in December. So that was like another key part of healing. And then I had my PET scan in February and it showed so much improvement. Like it was crazy. Like the new tumors were basically gone. Like the big tumor in my liver was gone. It was resolved is what they call it. My breast tumor had shrunk. I mean, the SUV scores were so low. Like they were all under like 3.8 was like my highest. Like it was incredible healing. And I was like thrilled and I just felt like I was right. Like I listened to my instincts and they were absolutely spot on. And it took me a really long time to like actually, you know, hear my instincts and believe them, you know, like you hear them, but you don't listen to them.
It's hard to distinguish between instinct or intuition and like anxiety. And I think this whole journey helps you kind of figure out which voice is which a little bit.
And you're getting a lot of guidance from different doctors and I'm meeting with different people and hearing about all these different things. And I don't know, this one felt right for me. And then now I just recently had another PET scan about a month ago. Same thing, more improvement. Like, it's really incredible. Like, I'm on like a slower healing path now, but I feel like I'm working so much on detoxification, nervous system. I'm working on just like slowing down in life and nourishing my body and like doing all the things that help the terrain, and also like living my life and enjoying life and not being so consumed with cancer all the time. And I'm going to start a new immunotherapy to see if that will kick this cancer in the butt for good. I'm going to start that next week. And, I fully believe I will be in remission. And I'm like, it was like a really long journey. And like, I wish I could like go back and like hug that version of me that like was just diagnosed, because it was so freaking hard. But like, I can't believe like all the stuff I got through. Like, I've never been someone who would call herself strong, or like, I'm pretty sensitive and like, I'm not easygoing, all those things. And like, I cannot believe the things that like I've gotten through. Like, cancer is really hard. It makes you do a lot of hard things, especially like needles. I hated needles. How much do we get poked? Like, all the freaking
People
time.
who are like who say, oh, I have such a fear of blood, I can't do needle. I'm like, you really can, because I was too. I almost passed out every time I got a poke, and you just have to. But
yeah,
you realize your strength for sure.
You realize you can do hard things, you can get through things, and it's not about strength, it's about resilience. And it's like, you will get knocked down, but it's just like the cliche, like how you get back up and you keep going. And I just like always just want to impart like hope and to people who just don't feel like, who feel hopeless, because there is healing is, I believe healing is always possible, but I do believe you have to believe that in order to achieve that.
So I feel like looking back at your whole story, there was like this massive shift, like seismic wave shift in November. And it was like you were on the edge, like you kind of had a crossroads, and like it was not great news. It was, we were very close at that point, and it was like a dark time for you, and it was hard. And you what do you think got you, like, what were some of the things that got you to a point where you made a decision that you feel like aligned with your intuition, was the right decision for you, and like brought your hope back? Like, was it people who helped you, who got through the dark time? Like, what were a few things?
Well, I realized like I wasn't actually healing in the way I wanted to heal. Like, I never really wanted to do chemo, but it felt like I needed to do it. I never really wanted to do immunotherapy, but it felt like I needed to do it. And I was realizing like all that stuff was like making me sick. And when I kept having something in my head being like, I think you need to stop. I think you need to stop. I don't think this is working. I don't think this is working. Then the PET scan, and I felt like I had started back over again. Like, I was at the beginning stages of grief. I felt like I had climbed a huge mountain, and then I was like at the bottom of another bigger mountain. And honestly, once I started seeing that medical medium, and she sort of told me that, she said, if you continue doing chemo, I think this could be really bad for you. And that, like, I was like, that's what I think. That's how I feel. And I was like, okay, are you listening to a medical medium? Like, are you going to take their advice over your oncologist? And I was like, no, I'm not listening to her. She's honestly just confirming something that I felt, and I was too scared to listen to myself. Like, am I confident enough to believe my intuition? And I was like, listen, at the end of the day, you made this decision. So if it doesn't go right, like, at least it was your decision. Like, before, it was like I could blame other people, because I'm like, you told me to do this and it's not working. And it's not that I blame myself. It was more of just like, you just have to feel like right in that decision. And that, like, listening to my intuition, doing the emotional work was important. I would never, if I had a clean scan in November, I would never have done evox. I wouldn't have done therapy. I would never have uncovered these things that were really still in me and really bothering me. And that wouldn't have been good for like anything. It wouldn't be good for my nervous system, marriage, friendships.
Usually will come down again with some form of like, emotional stuff manifests into physical things.
Yeah. And I didn't really, I was told that, but I don't know if I believed it. I'm like, you're telling me this bad thing that happened to me when I was 10 is sitting in my cells just waiting to like erupt? Like, I don't know. I don't know if I believe that. But I do believe that. I believe like our emotional trauma sits in our cells and is waiting, and it needs to be dealt with. You cannot suppress your feelings. And so that was, and just working through the trauma of the cancer diagnosis. Like, I actually did that. And that was like the shift. Yeah. Yeah. And like, you know, people were really there for me. Like my friends, of course, my family, my husband, like, you know, it's hard to tell people you love this stuff. I just felt like I was disappointing everybody with the bad news. Like, I just like needed good news for them. And like in February this year, 2025, it just felt so freaking good to tell them. And I announced it on social media, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people think I'm cancer free with people have asked me, they're like, but you still have cancer? I'm like, yeah, a little bit. Because they thought that I was like saying that I didn't have cancer. But I just feel like when you have those wins, you have to celebrate them.
Well,
because like it was a huge win.
It's a massive win. And I think people like, I understand, like, we're corralling so many people through treatment for cancer.
Yeah.
And all you see is like a ringing of a chemo bell.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard for people to comprehend the like gray nature.
Yeah.
It's not like, I'm done, I'm cancer free, I'm in remission, we're good. Like, standard of care makes it, because people need clarity, they make it feel that way. But when you step out of that box, you realize like it's not so clean cut.
Also, back in November, another thing you have to remember, like that whole year, I was spending almost every day at that cancer center. Like, I was away from my son. And so I hated that. And so when I decided to shift from treatment at like somewhere else and like doing it at home and doing the frequency healing and focusing on at-home healing stuff, I was happier. Like, I was living my life again. I was able to spend time with my child and like be around him, and like that brought me so much joy and like rest. Like, I was able to just like be at home, and that I do think also helped shift my healing to the good side, you know? So that was like, that was a huge shift. You know, I think you go through stages in a cancer diagnosis. It's just, and it's different for everybody, but yeah, I'm really lucky, and I'm lucky, but I'm also like I do feel like I'm being saved for a greater purpose. And I know that sounds, I don't know what it sounds like. I don't know. I just feel like I am. Like, I feel so strongly that I have to use this diagnosis to help others. Like, my whole life, like, I've never had a, like, strong career goals. Like, I've wanted to do certain things. I've tried things. I knew I always wanted to be a mom. Like, that was all I wanted. I wanted to be a mom. And I don't know what my future holds in terms of, like, more kids. I'm so lucky to have my son. But I always knew I wanted to help people. But I never really had, like, I didn't know how. And now I'm, like, given this diagnosis that's, you know, super difficult, life-altering. And I'm like, I need to use this to help. This is how I will help others. I'm not a doctor. I don't have like a license, but I have a voice that I use all the time, and that's how I'm going to help people, you know, is just sharing my story, and hopefully other people can find hope and healing from that. Yeah, and I think that's it. I've talked for a long time. I think we need to stop my story.
I mean, you have like 3 to 4 iterations, like moments through your story. So I learned things, and thank you for sharing. I feel like it's hard to relive some of that stuff, and it reopens wounds. But it's like your story is already impacting people. Like, everyone who you meet, I I mean, even when I put a picture or a video of you on my Instagram yesterday, I got a bunch of messages of like, tell Kelly hi, I just love her, and so encouraging. And it's a lot of people who are in the cancer community, you know?
Yeah.
So I think we all encourage each other in a lot of ways. So I'm excited for people to hear it.
Well, thank you for listening, and thank you for just being you, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. We have a big favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and leave a review. It really helps people find us.
Thank you so much, and see you next time.
Bye.